So this is X-Man, and this dude is genuinely one of the strongest mutants ever, bro. So X-Man's real name is Nathaniel Gray. Nate Gray comes from the Age of Apocalypse timeline, which is a timeline where Apocalypse takes over the Earth, so it's a little similar to Cable's timeline. Now let's get to bro's origin, cause this shit gets nuts. So in this timeline, the villain Mr. Sinister made a plan to stop Apocalypse by creating a mutant so strong that bro wouldn't stand a chance. So he took samples of Cyclops' DNA and Jean Grey's DNA to make a whole ass test tube baby. While the baby was maturing in the tube, he would only let it out every few years for testing. One day, Mr. Sinister lets him out to see how well the experiment was going, and while observing the progress, Sinister thought to give him a name. He thought that the boy should have his mother's last name, giving him the name Gray, but then bro just gave him his own first name, giving him the full name Nathaniel Gray. Sinister would then tell Nate about Apocalypse and basically why he was made, but while he's describing it, Nate teleports them into the city. They're only psionic projections at first until Nate literally grabs a soldier that was walking by. Mind you, this soldier is the size of a grown-ass man, and Nate is just holding him there. They then snap back to the lab due to a failsafe Sinister installed in Nate's brain in case bro's powers went too crazy. Sinister gives Nate a teddy bear and puts him back into the pod, intending for him to let him out when he was an adult. A little after this though, Cyclops himself breaks into Sinister's lab and comes across Nate, helping him escape without either of them knowing their relationship with the other. From here, a mutant named Forge would raise and be a mentor for Nate as well as other mutants. But due to Nate being so strong, Forge warned him to keep a limit on his power so Apocalypse doesn't discover him. After this, Nate and the other mutants get a tip from a mysterious man named Essex about a factory owned by Apocalypse. Nate ends up destroying it, but this leads to Apocalypse discovering his powers. Apocalypse then sends Domino out to capture him. Domino finds the mutants and puts belt to ass to every mutant that's not Nate, and she ends up killing these people. Nate eventually gets there and he is so pissed off, they start scrapping. Domino ends up getting the upper hand until Nate gets mad as fuck and straight up erases her entire memory, leaving her in a catatonic state. Nate then goes to find Forge, but that's when we see Essex pop up and straight up murder Forge. Nate could not catch a break, bro. Nate finds Essex and they get the boxing, and that's when it's revealed that this is actually Mr. Sinister in disguise. Sinister tries to tell bro about his destiny to kill Apocalypse, but Nate isn't having that at all. He is beating the bricks off this man. Sinister seemingly dies and Nate decides to go after Apocalypse to end everything. After this, he has a few short encounters with other mutants like Madeline Pryor, who is his romantic partner for a bit, which is weird, but we're gonna ignore it starting now. He's had encounters with Beast, Rogue, Professor X, Cyclops, and Jean Grey, even though they don't know each other's relationship, and the craziest interaction by far, which is with him and Cable boxing and having a whole comic issue together. For those who don't know, Cable and Nate are basically the same person in different fonts. Now eventually Nate would come in contact with Apocalypse, but this was interrupted by his son named Holocaust, which is a terrible name by the way. Due to some confusing time travel shit, Nate's entire timeline gets erased with him and Holocaust as the only survivors. This would lead them both to end up in the 616 universe. This would lead them to later have a rematch with them making the battlefield look like this. Yeah, these two were bugging. Nate eventually wins, but this leads to a villain named Onslaught to start looking for this man. If y'all haven't watched my Onslaught video, go watch that now for context. But Onslaught would eventually go to absorb Nate and Franklin Richards to become a whole ass multiversal threat. The X-Men, Avengers, and more would go on to free him though. After this, Nate would have some crazy ass adventures. He ends up teaming up with the X-Men, Cable, Spider-Man, Madeline Pryor, and a lot more heroes. He would even end up sacrificing himself at the end of the X-Men series, protecting the Earth from an alien threat named Anti-Man. He did this by basically turning himself into energy and spreading that same energy all around the Earth, leaving the planet undesirable to Anti-Man. But Nate would just end up coming back to life, basically becoming Mutant Jesus. And this dude ended up making an entire new world for mutants. Now that we're done with his story, let's talk about bro's powers and feats, cause this shit gets wild. Since he's the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey, he basically has all their abilities and more. He's an Omega level telepath, this dude can fly, he has super strength, super speed, super durability. This dude can read minds and the range can span across universes. He can turn himself into pure psionic energy, he can manipulate energy as well. And at his peak strength, he can reality warp and manipulate time. This dude is so strong that in the universe that he created, he pulled an Apocalypse and made 4 of his own horsemen called the Horsemen of Salvation. This dude is literally just Mutant Jesus, bro. Like, I'm not even close to done naming all of his feats. He's just Mutant Jesus, bro.